I'm Hugh Fitzpatrick, practicing real estate attorney here in Massachusetts. For today's show, we have a special guest, Jason Evans, who's the senior loan officer from Mortgage Masters. Jason, thanks for being on our program today.
Yeah.
We wanted to ask you some mortgage questions. First, I'd like to start with could you tell our viewers the difference between an adjustable rate mortgage and a fixed rate mortgage?
Yeah, so with a fixed rate mortgage, the rate you get at your closing is guaranteed for the entire term of your loan. With an adjustable rate loan, the starting rate is only guaranteed for a set amount of time, typically somewhere between 5 and 10 years. After that, it could adjust every year depending on what the financial markets are doing, and your payment could go up.
Okay. Getting to the question on, I know this was a big thing in the industry many years ago with the adjustable rates. A lot of people got in trouble. I want to kind of explore that a little bit more. Now, so I buy a house, and I say that I'm going to stay in the house 5 years or something. So I'm assuming that a adjustable rate program would be better for me because the interest rate would be lower?
Yeah, so correct. With an adjustable rate loan, the starting rate is typically lower than what a fixed rate would be. The risk is if your plans change and you end up staying in the home longer than you thought you were going to,
okay,
you could still have the loan when it's adjusting. And over the life of the loan, the payment could end up being higher compared to what was available for the fixed rate.
Can we talk about that adjusting period? Now, yeah. I'm assuming that it's kind of or can you explain to our viewers how that works, and as far as how much it goes up or can it go down? What are they using in order to determine the adjustment? What's the margin? If you could kind of go through those terms.
So there are caps on the maximum the rate can adjust. Usually the rate can go up 6% from where you started over the life of the loan. Mm-hmm. And the adjustments are based on an index plus a margin. The margin typically is 2.25%, mm-hmm. and the index most commonly used is the 1-year LIBOR, mm-hmm. which is currently at 0.58%. So for somebody that has an adjustable rate loan today with those terms, they would be getting their 2.25 margin plus the roughly 0.5% index, and they'd be at a rate of 2.75 right now.
So that's the start of the loan?
That would be if they were in a loan that was adjusting right now.
Okay. What about if I'm a prospective home buyer and using that same scenario that I used before, if I wanted to buy a house and my plans were to stay there 3 to 7 years. Our kids mm-hmm. are getting older, we wanted to move to a new town, community and stuff, so I decided to take an adjustable. So let's say if we wanted to stay in the town and it's about to adjust, so I'm getting a lower interest rate in the beginning, and could you talk about that adjustment period where you said a margin of 2.25%?
That's typically what's used on most conforming loans right now.
Okay.
So after your initial period, say it was a 5-year ARM, you might have a start rate of 3%, where you could have had a fixed rate of 4% to begin with.
Okay.
After the 5 years, your rate's going to adjust. It could go down if the indexes are low at that time, mm-hmm. which right now they are. Most analysts project that rates will be going up in the future.
Okay.
So say when your rate starts to adjust, the index is up to 4%, and your margin's 2.25. Your rate's going to go from 3 up to 6.25 at that point. So
you mentioned LIBOR, and I'm assuming that's a common index that they're using in order to quantify the new change on the change date?
That's the most common right now. Yeah.
So we're at less than 0%, you said, on LIBOR?
0.5 right now.
So so we're going to add 2 point. So if I started out at 3% for an adjustable rate and I'm adjusting tomorrow.
Yep.
So we would take the 3 point.
You would take your margin, which is 2.25,
okay.
and add it to the index, which is say 0.5%.
Okay.
So if in this scenario your rate would actually be going down to 2.75.
Okay, because I got
the index is so low currently,
okay.
which isn't projected to last for much longer.
Okay.
Most people think it's going to be increasing.
Is there I think they call them floor and a ceiling on the adjustments? Could you talk a little bit about what a floor is and what a ceiling is? And in your experience, do the lenders, I know this personally, where I got stuck in a loan one time where there was a bottom on the floor, but there wasn't a top on the ceiling, if that makes any sense. So could you kind of go through that with us?
Most typically the ceilings are 6% above whatever your starting rate is.
Uh-huh.
And really the floor would be 2.25, assuming the index went down to 0. The lowest you could ever be was 2.25 because of your margin that's built into it.
So they can never, in theory, they can never go down to 0 because we're talking about the margin.
Yeah, because I don't think the index has ever been a negative number. Mm-hmm. So in those terms, it would be 2.25.
2014, I don't know, want to say that everyone's thrown away the rest of this year, but I'm assuming that the mortgage business has actually slowed down a little bit because of the holidays, or at least that's what we've experienced on the title side. What's your prediction, if you will, on where the rates are going to be? And can you share with our viewers some of your kind of experiences with the customers that you help getting mortgages? Are you seeing an increase in the adjustables? Are you seeing an increase in the fixed? Or what are people doing?
So I'm projecting right now that rates will probably continue to rise. We're coming off of the all-time low rates from the last few years. We last saw earlier in the spring of 2013. And since May, rates have been starting to increase. And as the economy recovers and the Fed stops being as active in the marketplace, it's projected that rates will continue to rise. I wouldn't be surprised if rates are another % higher a year from now compared to where they are today. And because of that, I've seen increase in the people taking out fixed rate mortgages because they're afraid of what the rates would adjust to if they take out an ARM, since so many people are projecting higher rates in the future. I
know a lot of people are talking about the increase in rates is stifling the home purchase process. Do you agree with that? Is it really, because I know, like, let's say 4% or 4.25%, or if it jumps up to 5%, so long as I've been in the housing business, I mean, these are still historically low rates. Do you agree with an assessment that it really slows it down that much from a purchasing power point of view?
I don't think at these levels it is. If it were to continue to go up quickly, I think that would be a problem. But as long as it's a slow increase, I think it'll be okay, and it won't really affect the overall industry too much.
Now, everyone always asks the question about what causes the mortgage rates to rise, and I know economic data, et cetera. And could you talk a little bit about, I know the government buys up debt, and which forces the rates to remain low based upon the 10-year Treasury. Could you explain a little bit more what that process is all about and how the government has been influential in being able to keep mortgage rates very low?
Yeah, so a lot of people do think that the 10-year Treasury is what affects mortgage rates, when actually it's a close cousin of the Treasury, the mortgage-backed security, that is what directly influences what banks can offer for interest rates. So the mortgage-backed security market is similar to the Treasury market, except it deals with mortgages that are pooled up and sold to Wall Street and what the demand is for those loans. So typically when the 10-year Treasury goes up in yield, mortgage-backed securities will as well, but there's not always a direct correlation. For example, when the Fed announced their MBS purchase program back at the end of 2008, mortgage-backed securities outperformed Treasuries a lot because there was this new huge buyer in the market that was going to keep rates low. And that's what the Fed's been doing since then. And that's one of the reasons rates are starting to go up now, is because the Fed's hinting at ending this program, or at least slowing it down, which is going to be a huge demand taken out of the market for mortgage-backed securities.
So is it fair to say that with mortgage-backed securities, government steps in and starts buying it up, the yield, or what the investor wants for a yield, it actually shrinks, and then when the government starts pulling out and selling off the MBSs, that investors that are buying into the mortgage-backed securities require a higher yield because less participation?
Yeah, so anytime there's more demand, it's going to drive the yield lower because there's more buyers. And as there's less buyers, the mortgage-backed securities need to offer a higher yield to their investors in order to attract more buyers.
Okay.
So with the Fed exiting, it's going to take out a lot of demand and put some pressure on yields to rise.
Okay. Wow. Well, that wraps up our show for today. Jason, I really appreciate you being on our show and sharing that great information with us.
Yeah, thanks to you. It was great being here.
I'm Hugh Fitzpatrick. Have a great day.